Starting away. Tick, 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 tock, and we have sound, we have sight, and we're doing a show that I have no idea how much of our show notes are of any use at this point because the show's been delayed and delayed and re-delayed.
How many weeks now?
I don't know, but I don't care. We're doing a show. I can't decide if I want to let you just go on a rant. I cannot believe. At the moment I saw that it was a lion, I was just... I'm like, okay, Leo's going to have fun now. His theory now has legs. I was just kind of letting you rant on that, even though I thought it was complete bullshit. But, like... And we said this off camera. We didn't even say it on, so it's not like Apple's trying to... It's not, but they... I can't believe it.
It is kind of interesting, though, that I was able to use Revelations 13 to predict what the next version of macOS 10 would be called.
We don't know what's called Lion yet. There's just a lion... You know, Apple could have just picked that cat for the press things. Maybe it's not really called Lion. You know, it's like it could not be Lion. It's like it's an interesting cat to pick if you're not going to call it Lion. That's just.
Yeah. They were kind of running out of options, so it doesn't surprise me if it's called Lion or that it's called Lion, as the case seems to be. It's just interesting that... Well, I'm gonna actually go into the whole spiel that I went into off camera. But basically, in Revelations 13, it describes the beast of 666 fame. And when it's describing it, it first off says that the thing has 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns. Now, when they're doing macOS 10 version numbers, they always say macOS 10 version 10.6, 10.7, whatever. So that explains the whole dual 10s in that case, and the 7 heads would be version 10.7. In the following chapter, following verse, it goes on to explain how the beasts had the feet of a bear, which is interesting because macOS 10's beta was codenamed Kodiak. How it looked like a leopard, which, guess which cat they used twice. And it had the mouth of a lion. That was the only one that hadn't been used yet. And it just happened to grace us at the time we reached the number mentioned in the previous verse.
Okay.
It's like
this is getting just a little creepy at this point, just the time. But does this mean that Steve Jobs or that the Mac is the Antichrist? Which is it? Because, you know, ignoring for a moment the whole, the you shall accept the mark willingly, and it shall, not in hand X, but only in hand Y, and ignoring all of this stuff for a moment, which also, who are you bashing on here? Who are you saying is the whatever?
I don't know. It could be referring to either, since the Mac is Steve Jobs' child. It could be representing him through his works, but and I don't want to get too deep into this. I gotta say this is a joke because last time I scared somebody.
It's like it wouldn't surprise me. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if somebody at Apple said, "Hey, you know what? We're already matching. Let's go for it. Think of the free marketing."
Another interesting little tidbit was that the Apple One went on sale for $666.66.
That's too many sixes.
Whatever. Nobody actually keeps their change anyway.
Yeah.
I guess God does.
Watching James here trying to keep a straight face, like I can't decide if he's trying not to laugh or just not be interested, or which is it? Just out of curiosity. You really don't want to say anything on this one way or the other.
Just in case there are people taking me too seriously on this thing, it's a joke, people. You don't have to.
No. We all know by now that Apple fanboys do not have a sense of humor. It is surgically removed when they join the Apple cult. And they feel the need to indoctrinate others. It's like everybody seems to think that James here is a closet Mac fanboy and should become a genius at an Apple store. It's like I don't know how that's gonna work, but so right on this one. Like we've always been shoving your theory like in part 3 or 4 or something. I think this is the first time we've ever put it in the video that people are actually going to watch to decide if they're going to watch the show or not. Which is just a little, oh well. You know what, if they don't have thick enough skin, screw them. It's their own fault. Alright. What do we want, what do we want to move on to? We've already... Did we cover the G2? I don't think we have. And I'm not sure it's relevant at this point. It's... You know, if they didn't say back to the Mac, I would almost say this Apple conference that's coming up Wednesday would have something to do with the iPhone going to another carrier. Maybe that'll be the one more thing. Oh, and one more thing. By the way, the iPhone's now on another carrier, starting just in time for Thanksgiving rush or whatever. It's like...
Guess what? It's only been on every news program ever.
Yeah. That actually wouldn't surprise me, even though it's a back-to-Mac conference. I mean, obviously, given it's back-to-Mac and they have a Lion on the thing, probably they're talking about OS X. 10.7, probably called Lion.
Antichrist edition.
Satanic implications aside, that's probably what they're talking about. As there's rumors going around that they might be refreshing a MacBook Air. No idea on that. Here's where I think that comes from. To be honest, it's the only Mac that hasn't been updated this year. I mean, it's...
Fair enough, but I don't see them making a big deal about it. If they are...
No, it's like... So somebody was saying, you know, they might do Xserve. I'm like, this is a market Apple's losing in horribly. You expect Steve Jobs to get up on stage and go, here's our one flop! It's been upgraded! It's like, I don't see that happening at all. I hadn't thought about that. It's like until just now, until I just said it. Any thoughts on that, James Rulio? You think that might be the one more thing that's at the end of every Apple conference? It's like, one more thing! We now do this too! You think that the iPhone going to another character might be the one more thing, or...
it would make sense.
I don't think the iPhone will be... Well, here's the one theory for the iPhone going on the other character, and the first theory that I've heard that actually makes sense. You want to hear it?
Sure, go ahead. This is a conspiracy theory Monday.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not as much as Leo's. But,
I need to, like, find the South Park episode with the holiday critters and, like, play them in the background while you're doing that or something. And yeah, screw it. Anyways, back to the legitimate theory. It's like...
So, what I've heard is that Verizon's going to move to LTE, and so is AT&T, and so is almost all major characters.
Yeah, I think the only one not doing that is T-Mobile. Sprint's going to LTE, AT&T...
No. Only major one not doing it is Sprint. Sprint uses WiMAX.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. It might be that T-Mobile won't either, but I know that Sprint won't.
Okay.
Anyway, so because AT&T and Verizon will both be on the same thing, it might be that the iPhone might be on all 4 LTE 4G carriers. Because if I'm correct, LTE is a totally different kind of thing than GSM and CDMA. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It largely is, and honestly, what I would love to see with LTE, especially because of the higher speeds it's capable of, is let's just get rid of the cell towers altogether and sell me data link devices only on an LTE network, because that's really all I need on an LTE network.
Alright, so with everyone using LTE except for Sprint, it wouldn't be a problem at all for Apple to make an iPhone work on AT&T and Verizon, because they're not going to have many cards in it. So. Well,
no, they'd still have to have for the voice channels the CDMA versus GSM.
Oh, LTE's only.
Yeah, and I had heard rumors about a CDMA iPhone popping up. It specifically mentions CDMA in a lot of the rumors.
Yeah, which makes sense for both Verizon and Sprint, but the LTE makes more sense for Verizon because then there's not a separate 4G antenna to screw with. Some people have even come up with saying might be coming to T-Mobile because T-Mobile uses GSM, but they use different frequency for the internet, so it's still more antennas to deal with, and Verizon makes a hell of a lot more sense than T-Mobile.
So what I've heard is that the iPhone will come across to other characters when 4G really starts kicking in, which is supposed to be 2013. That's the most viable option I see, but honestly, I mean, I heard that the iPad's going to Verizon.
Well, and that might be the one more thing. The iPad comes to Verizon. It's like, we've heard the iOS device X coming to Verizon rumor. I think this is the 6th time this year, keeping in theme. The difference in this one is, A, Verizon didn't immediately come out like they did with all the other ones and said, no, we're not, no, we're not, no, we're not. Like, they haven't done that. You have the major news organizations, which are either bored as shit or know something we don't, covering it. They didn't cover it before. It's like there's a different smell to this rumor than the other ones.
So I think it's the first time the Wall Street Journal has picked up on the rumor.
Yeah, it's like there's enough of the overall machine that generally tends to go behind genuine rumors that tend to become factual ones, that either Apple has gotten really smart and finally taken advantage of the spin doctor to keep everyone off shot, and we have an announcement coming up, which isn't iOS related, more Mac related, but it smells like that might be happening. Whether or not they're going to announce it Wednesday or hold a whole other conference in January, who the hell knows? But it's looking more and more like some iOS device is probably coming over to Verizon, and it's probably Verizon, but no guarantees on that. Yeah, again, the MacBook Air, it's like, honestly, the MacBook Air needs to be updated because it's kind of a joke in its current form. It's like one USB device for $2,000. There you go, Apple. But I don't know if they're actually going to do that. I honestly think Wednesday is going to be, we haven't neglected the Mac. There's this new OS X operating system, and they'll go on about that, and then they'll have one more thing on something else. They'll probably update iLife. That's actually another theory that I've heard, and this one actually has credence because we know there's a new version of iLife. We've heard 50 billion rumors about it. There might be a new version of iLife, and that might be what the conference is all about. You know, we're updating iLife, we're doing all this stuff, and then the one more thing at the end might be, oh, and by the way, OS X is getting an update too. It's like they completely ignore it. Like everybody's expecting OS X, OS X, OS X, and they don't talk about it for the whole conference, and then at the end they go, oh, and by the way, we've upgraded OS X. Here it is. It's like, I can see them doing that just to screw with people. Apple's nothing if not genius at that.